What do you think of when you think of overwhelmed? Just the word itself, when you hear that word overwhelmed. Now, I typically think of my day, sometimes my life, a season that I go through, but I rarely think about God until I heard this song. The song Overwhelmed by Big Daddy Weave really got to me today. Today I was shaving, and as I began to shave, I was listening to Spotify. And I like Spotify because what I do is create a playlist, but then I just press the radio button on the playlist because then it'll pick songs like those songs. So I'm not always just picking what I listen to. It's just kind of random, but it's the same kind of genre. And I had some different things. And so one song played as I was shaving, and then this song came on, which I've heard before. But you know, you hear songs in passing and going, and maybe you hear them at church, or you just don't pay much attention to them. But for some reason, this was the day I was listening to the lyrics of the song. And maybe because I somewhat am feeling overwhelmed. A lot of things with the beginning of the new year, a lot of goals that I've set, things we're doing right now with our business and ministry, and overwhelmed. And I heard that song. I heard him singing the song. And I hadn't looked at the lyrics before. See, I like hearing songs and I like the beats of them, but I listened to the words. So I looked up the words, and again, I was overwhelmed with just the idea that in this one verse, it says, God, I run into your arms, unashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed by you. As I think about, I can run into his arms, I can run to God, unashamed because of mercy. Mercy meaning God did not give me what I rightfully deserve. I deserve death. I deserve to be separated from God forever in a place called hell because of my sin. Not only that, but even as a believer, I don't deserve the things that God gives me. God has blessed me with a beautiful family. God has blessed me with a ministry where I can go and speak to students and parents and help other people. And honestly, I don't deserve any of that. And so as I thought about that lyric, I can run into your arms unashamed. And there's a lot of things in my life that I should be ashamed of, or I was ashamed of. Things that I've done, people I've hurt, and every once in a while, those things kind of creep up in the back of my mind. And I think that's okay in the sense that I don't focus on those things, because what I've been forgiven of is taken care of on the cross. The fact that when Christ died, he died for all of my sins, past, present, and future. That's overwhelming. That a God of mercy would look down and see all I've done, all that I would ever do, but yet he still sent his son to die for me. That's overwhelming. And then just thinking as being a father, and with my daughter Sophia, when there's things I tell her to do or not to do, and she does them, how angry that makes me, or upset that makes me when she disobeys. And then looking at a greater level, how much more that I know what things to do or not to do and disobey God, but yet he showed me mercy. I'm overwhelmed. I am overwhelmed. And it is a blessing to be able to even sit here and create a video and share, and hopefully somebody gets something out of this, because in our lives, a lot of things can be overwhelming. You could be in college and be overwhelmed with all the work. You can be in high school and overwhelmed with peer pressure and all the things that are going on in your life. You can be a parent overwhelmed with that son who's doing drugs, or that daughter who's doing drugs. And there's a lot of things that can overwhelm us. But we need to stop and be overwhelmed by the greatness of God. All that God has done for us. And, honestly, for me, sometimes I can focus so much on where I am today and focus on the things that I'm doing that I don't look back enough. And see, I like reading some of Paul's writings in the Bible, because he often looks back at what he used to be. Not in a way where he would focus on it and say, woe is me, I'm this, but he would talk about what he used to be, but now I'm in Christ, but now I'm set free, but now, and just celebrate what God has done through Jesus Christ. And so I don't know where you are today. I wasn't planning on even creating this video or talking about this issue. I hadn't really heard the song before, but I am overwhelmed by God's grace. I'm overwhelmed by who God is. And if you haven't heard this song by Big Daddy Weave, just Google it, look on YouTube. I listened to the song again. And it really just helped me focus on the fact that, yes, all that God is and all that God has done is overwhelming. But sometimes we don't take time to look at that or consider that. And so I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by God and what he's done. And And not only that, what he's doing and the promises he's made. I've been reading through the book of Joshua, and in Joshua, God had given Joshua some promises. He gave him provision. He told him protection. He gave him instructions. And God has done some of the same things for us, that we have promises in him, that my future hope that I have is not on this earth. It is with him in heaven one day. But as I live here today, I can have an influence. I can do some things, and I can and sit back and just be overwhelmed with the goodness, the grace, the mercy. I love it. I'm ashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed. So I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but hopefully you will sit back and consider all that God has done for you. All that God has done. And just stop and think, put the phone down, turn the computer off, and maybe just sit, maybe just listen to this song and meditate. Maybe open up your word and look at some verses like Psalms 103 that talks about don't forget his all his benefits, and just be overwhelmed and sit there and soak in the goodness of God, because I know I can get overwhelmed with the wrong things, which can lead me to a place of depression, anxiety, and anxiousness, and all those things. But when I'm focused and become overwhelmed with the goodness of God, that leaves me in a place of peace, and actually leaves me in a place of worship. That the things that I now do in my life, the choices I make, even the work I do, will be done in with a focus of worship, because I'm overwhelmed with God. So check out the song and spend some time meditating, as I am and will, on this fact, this truth of being overwhelmed with God, because he's great. I'm overwhelmed by you.